Hi guys, back in our second week and another reading lesson. I originally planned to do two mini lessons this week, but then once I started planning the lessons and finding text, I realized that with everything else that you're being asked to do this week, that might be a little too much. So this is going to be the only reading mini lesson for this week, and then I want you to really take some time to practice the skill for this week. And the only way that you can get better at reading is to read. So I'd love for you to spend some time practicing each day. And you can stop and jot as you're reading in your notebook or just on a piece of paper. You do not have to submit that work to me. You can if you would like, but not necessary. Last week, we worked on identifying a character's feelings, and we used the illustrations in addition to the words that the author gives us in the story. And we noticed how those feelings changed over time based on what was happening in the story. So we were kind of swimming up here. And this week, I'd like to dive a little bit deeper. And I really want us to practice thinking deeply about the characters, trying to understand them by noticing more than just how they look. We're going to notice their words and their actions and come up with our own ideas and theories about the kinds of people that they are. So we're going to practice that a little bit together. And then I want you again to dive into some text and practice this skill. When we identify a word to describe a person, it's called a character trait. And those trait words are words we use to describe who the people are on the inside. In the Brain Pop video that you watched, they were describing both traits as well as just what a character looks like. Because to get a complete picture, we do have to take all of those things into account. But we're going to zoom in today and really focus on words and actions. And we don't want to just stop there, though. We want to think about, why does this matter, and who cares? Why is this important? When we think about a character and we get to know them and identify the kinds of people or characters that they are, that helps us to make connections to ourselves. The character might be similar to us or different. It might make us make connections to another character in another book that we've read, or somebody else that we know. And then we can also think about things like, is this the kind of character that I would want to have as a friend, or somebody that I would like to spend time with? And that helps us, again, our number one focus is understanding. So let's practice on these slides. We are going to pull out some actions, and we're going to try to work together to figure out what this is telling us about this person. I'm going to pull out this one. Sarah helped Jan up after she fell running to the line. I'm going to think about what this tells me about this person. Jan was running to line. She fell. Sarah stopped and helped pick her up. That makes me think that Sarah is kind. It was kind of her to offer a helping hand. Another word we might use is thoughtful. You thinking of anything else? If you have your parent watching this with you, you could have a discussion with them. You can just think out loud with Mrs. Bird. Nick pushed Dan out of line to get in front. This tells me that Nick is, what happened here? Gonna move this out of the way, guys. Sorry about that. Nick pushed Jan out of the line to get in front. And my first thought is rude, how rude it was of Nick. Um, Sometimes we get into the habit of wanting to call every negative action mean. And I'm not saying that Nick is not mean, but I have to ask if there's a better word to describe his behavior than that. So I did put mean up there in case that's what you were thinking. Amir called Emily and asked her to the movies. I think, well, that's a kind thing to do. But I want to think about maybe a better word that I could use to describe Amir. When you invite someone to join you and you act like a friend, we might say that Amir is friendly. And I'm thinking about these people so far and wondering if they are like anyone that I know. Are these the kinds of people that I would want to be friends with? What do I think these characters might do in another situation? For example, Amir is a very friendly person. So if he was in the lunchroom and happened to see somebody who was sitting alone, I could predict that he would probably invite them to join him. But Nick, on the other hand, Nick is rude. He's not a very nice person if these are the kinds of things that he's doing. So Nick probably wouldn't ask somebody to join him. I can use the details in the text to make predictions about how characters will act later on in the story or in another situation. Let's try one more. Trey gave Sal his goggles because his eyes were burning. Take a second, see if you can come up with a new word, or maybe there is a word we've already used that could also describe Trey. I was thinking that Trey is a kind and thoughtful person as well. And I was also thinking that this word might describe him. What do you think about giving? He is literally giving what he has to someone else because he's a thoughtful person. All right, let's move on to words. In a text, the author is going to describe what a person is doing, but they're also going to use dialogue. Dialogue, again, is that word for when people are talking and you are looking for the quotation marks in your text. And we're going to follow the same pattern. I'm going to pull one out, and then we're going to think about what this tells us about this person. Do you want to come and eat lunch with us? That reminds me of the actions we talked about on the page before. A person who would invite someone to eat lunch with them is a very friendly and thoughtful person. I'll fix your lamp. After all, I broke it. So, my first thought, he's admitting to breaking it, and that makes him honest. And then he's doing the right thing, he's fixing it. I think that that is a very responsible thing to do. Notice that the words and actions sometimes give me two trait words that I can use to describe them. Here, you can borrow my markers. I have plenty. This person is giving. This person is also kind and thoughtful. No, it's mine, and you can't have any. This person is selfish. They don't want to share. Maybe this person is greedy. Although greedy really means you want more. So maybe that's not the best word, but definitely selfish. Let's try one more. Go get me a drink. Wow, that person is bossy. And that's a kind of a mean way to talk to someone. But when you are ordering someone around, telling them what to do, bossy is probably a better word than just mean. So we have a list of trait words based on what characters might say and what they might do. Some trait words are positive and some are negative. And as we read in a text and learn about a character, we're going to um, be hearing things they say and do, and some might be positive and some might be negative, depending on the story that we're reading. But I want to go back to here is what the text tells me. This is my evidence. And when I identify a trait word, this is my opinion, my thinking about this character. Shows that I'm thinking about them. And why does it matter? Well, it matters because this tells me about the person and helps me to understand them, their motivations. It helps me to make predictions about what they might do in the future. Now, it's one thing to take a look at one piece of evidence and identify a word. It can be a little trickier when you have a larger piece of text, or if you're tracking this through a text from beginning to end. So on the next slide, I have a whole paragraph, a kind of a mini story about a character. We're going to read it, and then we are going to stop and go back and really pay attention to what this character does and what they say, and see if we can come up with the so what, the why does it matter. Here is our text. I'm going to move myself out of the way. I'm going to read the whole thing out loud. If you would like to read it first, go ahead and pause my video, read it, do some of your own thinking, and when you're ready, you can unpause it and listen to Mrs. Bird's thinking. One day, Kevin was walking to the library. While he was walking, he accidentally bumped into a man holding two large grocery bags. "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, sir," he said. "Here, let me help you carry some of those bags to your car." Kevin took one of the bags and walked with the man to his car. Then he started walking towards the library again. He waited on the crosswalk for a traffic light to turn green. He looked down and noticed a wallet. He picked it up and opened it. Inside was $100 and a woman's driver's license. He closed the wallet and took it with him to the library. When he got there, he gave it to the man at the front desk, who called the owner. Kevin picked out 3 new chapter books to read, and while he was there, 3 new picture books to read with his younger sister, Chloe. Okay, I'm going to go back now and I'm going to highlight some of the words and actions in this story. So it tells me that he is walking to the library where he accidentally bumps into a man holding some bags. And he says, "Excuse me, I'm so sorry, sir." Then he says, "Let me help you carry those bags to your car." He takes the bags and walks with them to the man's car. So I have some words and actions. I'm going to stop right here. And so he bumped into the man. It was an accident, but it's the way that he spoke to the man that gives me my first clue as to the kind of person that he is. He says, "Excuse me," and he calls the man sir. And that tells me that he is very respectful. He doesn't stop there. So next he notices that the man is struggling and offers to help him. He is a very helpful young man. Let's go back to the text now. So then he heads back to the library and he's waiting on the crosswalk for the traffic light to turn green. When he finds a wallet, he picks it up and opens it, notices that there's $100 and the woman's driver's license. He does not take it and put it in his pocket. He doesn't pretend that he doesn't see it. He takes it with him to the library and he gives it to the man at the front desk who calls the owner. And this might be hard for some people who would want to keep that money for themselves. That's not what Kevin does. Kevin returns it to the rightful owner. And, he doesn't go to the lady's house himself because I don't think that that would be very, very safe. He is very responsible and he is honest. Then, once he's done that, he picks out some chapter books. And so I know a little bit more about him. He likes to read. But did you happen to notice this part here? He doesn't just think about what he wants, books for himself. He is thinking about his younger sister and getting books for her too. So the word that comes to my mind is thoughtful. I'm noticing that all of these traits tells me that Kevin is a pretty awesome young man, that given a choice, he's going to do the right thing. These are all positive traits. He's respectful, helpful, responsible, honest, thoughtful. And so here's the so what. My big picture thinking of Kevin is that he's a really awesome kid. And I would definitely want to have a friend who was all of these things. I can make predictions that he's going to continue to make the right choice, even if it's difficult or hard. Um, he is honest, so he's going to tell the truth. He's going to do the right thing. I'm hoping that you are kind of noticing that when, oh, sorry guys, brain fart. I do not remember what I was going to say. I hope you're thinking about this, is that this is not something that is really difficult reading and understanding, but we have to go slowly. And sometimes readers have to go back and reread to really pick out important details. And then we do the thinking about what that means. Something that can be tough, though, is finding just the right trait word that you want to use. So I am going to add to the page a document that you can look at that gives a list of trait words that might help you while you're working. Thank you so much for following this lesson. I hope that you found it helpful. And now begins the practice. There is another paragraph that I wrote on the page that I would like for you to read, and then respond to me what you are learning about the characters from that passage. That's going to be your assignment. But for the rest of the week, I want you to just continue to pick really awesome books that you're interested in reading. And I want you to stop and jot when you get to some dialogue or some actions that tell you something about the character, something important that you can use to help you really understand that character. If you would like to read with Mrs. Bird, I think that would be awesome. Just have Mommy or Daddy send me an email with a couple of good times this week, and Mrs. Bird will get in on a virtual meeting with you where we can read the book together and you can kind of show me your thinking. That is optional, but it would be super awesome to be able to talk with you. Okay, that's the only lesson for today, or for this week, guys. You're going to dive into some reading and do some great work, okay? All right. Mwah.